Episode 2!
Episode 2!
We got 2?
We got
Episode
2
2.
of the Recollection podcast, a Grand Archive podcast featuring me, AJ, and James.
Oh, you, AJ. Of course, you go first. And James. Yeah. Great. All right.
I do in the description, too. I gotta make sure. I'm the one doing it. So.
I hate descriptions. Let's talk about Grand Archive. We just had locals last Thursday. I was super hyped about it. You were kind of hyped about it, but you had a rush from work, which thank you for the hustle. Some people hustle, and some people just complain that they missed round 1 and want to go 4-0 and not register and do all that stuff.
I was like, it didn't click.
Oh, yeah. Hostway, we love you. But anyways, today we're going to go over locals. Thankfully, again, we had a bunch of people show up. I think we had 17. Is that picking up good? Okay.
Yeah.
And we had a nice spread of different elements and classes, as well as...
There was a really good spread, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And we had a couple of people we didn't have last week. One of them was Zach. I do not remember the player he brought along. My apologies. I do know that everyone was whispering because they're like, there's a water assassin here. What does it mean? And
what does it do? And then you ask them, you're like... It's insane. You're like,
yeah.
But what does it do? It's just insane.
Right. like it's wet and he's got knives and we didn't know exactly what, no one locally or when we were, testing earlier on, no one's really dived into that. So it was fun to see that. We had Wind Lorraine's going on. We, of course, had Fire Rye and Fire Lorraine's playing. I think we had, Ryan Fox and Tim were on Tamer. I don't know what element Ryan was on, unfortunately. Water, maybe?
Water, I think, but maybe wind. I have no idea, actually.
Yeah, but he can post in the comments and let us know.
Sure he can.
But no, it was great. So
how do you think your deck performed? First of all, what were you playing?
I was playing Fire Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was focusing on just pure aggro, ending the game as fast as I could. One thing I've seen a lot of people in our local Discord chat talk about is, well, I'm going to hit level 3, and then you have all these insane, for Lorraine, you have all her allies that are like, you pay 2 and it's like a 3-4 and it brings back weapons and pays your mortgage and it does all this stuff. My whole plan was to just end the game while they're working up to that, so that even before they hit it, let's say they hit level 2, they start panicking because they're like, this dude is on heroin and he's going all in and I have to balance, do I put resources to slow him down, or do I just do my game plan and go to level 3? The biggest turns were doing Fiery Momentum. I would hit for a truckload, and then throwing the sword that I just went in with them on. So that was it was 11 and then 4, and you're like, that's half your health just in one turn.
Yeah, that's insane.
No, and the biggest mistake, I went 3-1. I lost against Andrew, who was Wind Lorraine. I could not find any Fiery Momentums. And he did something, or he didn't do something that everyone else did. And I think it's going to be a big thing in this game. He did not kill any of my floating memory allies.
Yep.
Everyone else, the Flame Rune Swordsman would come in. They're like, well, it's a 2-2. I got to kill it. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Put that in the floating memory. And that just made transitioning to level 2 and bringing out materializing stuff very easy. So yeah, the whole game plan was just dumping fire cards into the graveyard, using that for Fiery Momentum, and then turn 7 or 8.
I don't think it was turn 7 or 8.
Not with Alex, but there were some games where it would take longer to find stuff like that. But against Alex, unfortunately, the turn I got the sword out, I was able to play 2 of those fire cards with the anvil on it, and it's a floating memory, and it's just okay,
gives you a +1 durability.
Yeah, that card. That's okay, that's 2 floating memory, free level 2,
steel,
and yeah. No, everything just lined up perfectly, and despite him, he cremated 2 of the witches, so you drew 6.
Yep.
But he just couldn't find
it.
The stuff, and I think he realized by turn 3, if I don't do something, and he also wasn't level 3.
Yep.
It was just if I don't do something, this game's over, and the game ended. But anyway, that was the game plan, just typical aggro stuff. and trying to get as much, just basically suiciding floating memory units into them to.
Yeah.
Because they have to make that choice. Do I take damage or do I give them floating memory? I think with that gameplay in mind, I feel like there has to be something coming along that will remove floating memory units from the game so you can deal with it.
They did go a little heavy into floating memory, I think, really fast, right? So one of the things I was thinking of actually on my way over here was that I feel like maybe there's too much floating memory in the game already, where it feels like there's not really a decision to be made when it comes to materializing something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, especially I was playing Water Lorraine, and there's a lot of cards that mill yourself, and you're trying to mill your floating memory into the grave as fast as possible. And I just noticed there's so much that it never really felt like materializing was a restriction in any way. There was like almost no material cost. It was always a floating memory, which I know in like water decks it's going to be that's probably the case. Maybe that's like their gimmick, is just that so much is floating memory because you can mill it into your graveyard. But I've also noticed it against the fire decks that are churning through their stuff so fast. They're also getting a lot of their floating memory just into the grave and then drawing cards off of it. And it just feels like I kind of felt like when we were learning the game, it felt like the materializing of something, especially with a cost, it had a cost, right? So it felt like, oh, I have to really make a decision here. What do I want to put in my memory? What do I want to, do I really want to risk losing something or go down in card advantage to materialize this thing? And right now it feels like already in set 1, we've already gotten so much floating memory that it doesn't, like these fully built decks feel like they don't even have to worry about like what the floating memory cost is, or what the memory cost is. It's just like, I'm just going to banish floating memory. I got so much. And like,
I 100% agree. If there is right now, because I was talking about, I was telling you earlier, I was looking at building Fire Assassin. Doesn't matter, Assassin or Warrior, if there is card text on the card that says you may, or if you discard a fire card, it's in. Like, it is, doesn't matter the power.
Or like on enter, discard a fire card, draw a card or something. Or on attack, discard a fire card, draw a card.
It is guaranteed a spot. There is the card, I forgot the name, that Red Zone Rogue got, and it's like whenever you swing, if you discard a fire card, it pings.
It's like Korhazi Courier.
Yeah. 4 of those. Because that's what you want to do. You want to get rid of fire stuff, and this time you're doing damage whenever you do it.
It's great.
Just like... we'll have to see what set 2 has, and as more people have access to, say, fully fleshed out water decks that maybe can purge floating memory, maybe then floating memory will be a bit more precious when you're like, well, I don't have any more of it. But no, we'll have to see what people come up with. And unfortunately, I don't follow like the Discord matches too much. Have you seen any new stuff that?
No, honestly, when I look up a lot of the deck lists, at least as of recently, it's been a lot of just Fire Lorraine does really well. If you go a few tournaments back, the Water Lorraine deck went 6-0 and won, but that was pre the 5 altar cards.
Oh, right.
So the 5 cards that they're adding in altar. But then if you go to the most recent tournament where they did allow the altar cards, the Water Lorraine deck made it in top 8, but lost in the first round. And they only went 4-2 in Swiss. Okay. So like 4-2 is a really good record, don't get me wrong, but like it's not 6-0 winning the tournament. And that player is probably just a really good player because I think it was the same player on the deck each time. Mm-hmm. So they're probably really well versed in that water deck. So it remains to be seen, but it looks like coming out the gate, like Fire Lorraine just is the deck to beat. It's really fast, it's really consistent. It looks good, like all the cards look really good, so it's gonna pull in a lot of those players, and it's really easy to play. It's pretty straightforward. You like play this thing that has attack in with it. If it has floating memory, get it to the graveyard as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. You level up, and then there was one where they even have like and then there's the end game plans with those decks, where even if like you don't kill them on the way with all these like really aggressive cards, there's the Insult combo deck where it's like you play the Spirit Blade Insult, bring all your weapons back, and then the 0 cost card that like disperses them to everything. Like,
the 6 cost, I think it is. And so at our locals at the Haven, we did allow proxies of the 5 cards that'll be altered. I was gonna say unfortunately. I mean, it's not unfortunate; it's just people are busy or whatever. I didn't see too much of that, and I'm wondering. We've touched on it a little bit if that element neutralizer card will start to be annoying. Now, like as Fire Lorraine, I don't know if you're carrying around Disintegrate to get rid of.
They're already doing that. That's one of them.
They're backing up the. Okay.
There's 2 cards that kill Regalia, and they're playing. I think they're playing at least I think it is or something to Ashes, like Spurn to Ashes or something like that. And so they're already like I've had my swords killed a couple times, so they already have the card. So I don't expect them to not be running that card especially when the nullifying Regalia comes out and it says all your cards are normal type in graveyard. So that like just shuts down the Erupting Rye deck because that cares about banishing fire cards. And yeah, it's been an interesting experience already because we've had like our level of player at the store. So you have someone like Alex and maybe me to like a lesser extent, and then Nick, who have come from really competitive card games and cannot not play them competitively, right? And then you have like people who are just getting into Grand Archive and they're playing for fun, and then everything in between, right? So one of the juxtapositions of that is that like when you send someone like who's very competitive versus someone brand new, and on top of that the brand new player has maybe like a structure deck plus deck plus a few cards, then versus a deck that I won't even say like a fully built deck, but a deck that can kill you as fast as the Erupting Rye deck, and seemingly to a not knowing player out of nowhere, right? Like to anyone who's played against that deck before, you definitely know like, oh, they're really building cards in their graveyard, I'm kind of on a clock here. But if you're not paying attention to that as a new player, you're just like, oh, I'm playing the game and I kind of have a decent board state, and then suddenly they're like 15-15, you're dead.
Yep.
So like so it's one of those things that like, and that can leave a really bad taste in that player's mouth, which is where I was going. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how much they were really they must have known about the deck, but it's like one of those things where I hope games like that don't turn too many people off.
No, I agree. We have a player. He usually plays Magic. He plays. He's in one of the D&D sessions on Sundays. I believe his name is Joe. Really nice guy. He was there. He's been trying, but he did get a bit frustrated, and he's just like he played against nothing but Fire Rye, and he's just like
it's really popular because it's like, really cheap.
Yeah,
too. Like none of the cards are super expensive, so.
It's like, but he was just like, no, it's just like every game, like turn 5 or 6, I get melted and there's like nothing I can do. Now, I understand the frustration. I think the thing to focus on though is when he says there is nothing I can do. I think there's absolutely stuff you can do. I think you can at least slow it down if you're building to focus on countering that deck, because there were Fire Rise that didn't win. In fact, the Water Assassin was the one who took it.
Yep.
Now that could be based on matchups and what he got. I understand that, but I don't think we're quite there yet where it's like, it's broken, like
unbeatable,
ban it.
I don't know. The only thing I'm worried about is less Fire Rye and more Fire Lorraine. I think what she does is very consistent. I know there's ways to kind of slow it down where you can put a like interceptor in front of it to like try to like get, but they can usually send something small at the interceptor and then still hit you for like 7.
Yep.
Something that I know there's some tools to negate like effect damage. So there's like, I know in water they have water barrier to try to negate some of that effect damage. The only issue I think with that is that if that becomes popular, then they already have a tool to go against that, which is the Varuk land card or whatever. I don't remember what they're called in
the castle.
It's the one that looks like Volcar. Like,
yeah, it's not a stadium, and it's not like it's like a land. A
landmark. I don't know. Yeah. It's but it's Varuk or whatever. I don't. And basically, it says your fire damage is uncounterable or unpreventable. Yeah. And so already it's like they've given fire the tools to already negate the tools they've given to negate fire. So it's just one of those things where it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. As far as like the tools, I don't know, other than nullifying, I think it's nullifying orb, which is coming out in altar, and water barrier. I'd like to hear from anyone watching or listening to really what do you do to counter it, because other than go faster than it, but that kind of exacerbates the problem.
Right, because then you have to deal with that. I don't know. because we don't have like banish stuff, so like you can't really get rid of that. I'm trying to think. Like right now, I'm trying to come up with an answer. Now, are you talking about like Fire Lorraine, or are you talking about specifically?
Either one, really. Fire Lorraine, I think your biggest answer is going to be, it's rough, right? Because if you put a bunch of interceptors in front of it, they go to level 2 and draw like 3 cards.
Mm-hmm. My answer, the only thing I can come up with right now off the top of my head is playing a water mage. You constantly pin down the floating memory units. You don't kill them, but you freeze them, so they're just stuck there. And let's say like with Merlin, you get rid of their floating memory. When you're Lorraine and you have to pay full price for your regalia leveling up, it's garbage, and you start losing value very quickly. So whereas the mage is drawing cards off Enlighten, this and just whatever, Lorraine is like, draw one, I guess, and that slows you down, especially when you're trying to ramp up fire momentum. And most of your floating memory cards are your fire cards. So I think if you starve them with that, that being said, I have not played Merlin or Water, so I don't know. I know Blizzard freezes the hero, so they can't even swing in.
That's good.
I don't know.
Part of it.
and that's something like we've brought it multiple times. Like I want to try Fire Assassin, I want to try Water Merlin. I don't have the cards though, so we have to wait for Altered. I guess we could play on like tabletop to test it or something, but like I'm looking forward to testing that out. I think right now, because of the limited card pool, everyone's like, I'll play like you coined it,
starter deck plus.
Yeah, it's like I'll play Win Lorraine, but with a few bonus cards.
I got like a lot of our players. Luckily, the Haven was able to get a pretty sizable Kickstarter allotment. So most people in our play group got a starter deck plus a box ish, and then of course packs on entry, and so that's been kind of interesting to see people's decks like already like evolve over time. Like, oh, I got this piece, which is kind of cool. Like you don't see that too much in modern TCGs, just because we just expect access to everything. You just want your card catalog filled out so you can, all right, what's good now? I'm gonna build whatever. So it's just really good to see like kind of that evolution of people's decks like getting better, players getting better. I just hope I want to keep seeing like innovation in terms of deck building and tools, and I hope that just like when we get to our first like real locals after Alter, we actually have OP and everything. That it's not just like Fire Lorraine.
Yeah, I agree. That'll get. It was kind of like with Flesh and Blood, and it wasn't too long, but Fire. Fi, or I'm not Firefly, but like Fi, who happens to be fire. It's like that sort of thing.
Starvo was the bigger problem.
Yeah,
Starvo was everywhere.
Just why not play him?
I'll just if you're playing competitively, for sure.
Which, by the way, speaking of competitive, we'll be at. I always want to say Austin, but it's Houston. Houston.
Ascent.
Yep, we'll be going to that event.
Super excited for it.
I don't know too many details, but I definitely want to be there. Hopefully most of the dev team will be there, and we'll finally get to meet them. I don't think they posted any like entry promos or stuff you get for like signing up.
The only thing they posted that I know of is the actual prize you get for winning.
All right. I do know about that card. I know everyone is like dying to get that card. It looks amazing.
Looks great. I really like the logo they put on the card where it's like Ascent Houston or whatever. It's like one of one or whatever because it's the winner. It says like first place Ascent Houston. It's really cool. Yeah, no, it looks great. I think that art was done by Han Chu. So she's really prolific. I lost the word.
No, you tried though.
Prolific.
There you go.
There we go.
I think I've seen her artwork on Twitter. I think like you commented something like, "Oh, it looks great. Keep it up." Or And I'm kind of jealous. I'm hoping that if they, Weebs of the Shore ever lets stores host like
like in store like
not mega championships, but like
store
qualifiers.
Championships and qualifiers.
It would be cool to get like unique promos or something like that.
No, I think they've already done really good at like keeping stores like involved in their OP program. I really like the way they're doing the prize packs. I think that's really interesting, right? So foils are really hard to get in Grand Archive. There's 3 per box on average, and I think you get silver and gold packs in your OP, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a gold pack, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure it's like 50% at a not foil card and 50% at a foil card.
Yep.
So that's really great because you're going to see a lot more foils specifically through OP, and that promotes stores, people getting out and actually playing in person, which is great. I love that. And they also have in those OP packs, they have the like 3 new collector rares that are specific to OP, like Nia, Arthur, and
there's the Water Assassin card.
That's Nia.
Okay.
Arthur's the Fire Warrior, and then there's the Water Mage.
Yeah,
it's
she has like the
Mage.
playmat.
It's like Lynette or something like that. And they all look great. They all look insane. Really good artwork on those. So I think that's a really good thing that they're doing. You know, really promote in-store play because that's your bread and butter, right? That's you have no game with no players, and you have no players with no stores that host it. So good on Weebs for doing that.
Absolutely.
And I think doing actually getting foils out of the set is a really fun way to do it as well.
Yeah, I think the gold packs also have a higher chance of a higher rarity. It's like SRs are in gold packs, whereas the silver packs are more on rare and commons, which there's tons of common foils I need, so that doesn't even bother me that much. And right now it's ridiculous, and I know, Weebs has nothing to do with that, but it's like some of the common floating memory, like the Vanguard, that foil's like $70, and I'm like...
That's wild.
For a common, and I need 4 of those, like, it's not happening.
It's also Kickstarter, so I mean, that's probably a part of it. So,
absolutely, it's not like you can just go, it's all right, I'll buy another box. Like, by buying another box, you're shelling out another...
It is wild when you go on, like, the Weebs website, the Grand Archive website, and you look at the populations of any cards. Like, super rares have, like, a population. It's, like, 2,500 in non-foil, and then, like, foil's, like, 108.
Yeah, it really isn't a lot.
Like, no, that's like almost nothing. So I think any foil super out of Dawn of Ashes?
Yep.
Dawn of Ashes Kickstarter edition is going to be, as long as the game holds on, it's going to be just keep going up. But that's great because those are collector pieces and the game pieces are relatively cheap. I think even Grand Crusader's Ring, which, I mean, thankfully they did it this way where it's 1 per box, 1 ultra rare per box. So, and there's only 5 of them. I think there's 5 of them. So you're more likely to get, like if you open 2 boxes, there's a chance you'll get duplicates, then you trade it with someone else who didn't get a duplicate.
Yeah.
And Grand Crusader's Ring is like a deck or a card that goes on almost every deck right now. And even the Kickstarter version non-foil is going for like $40. So for a 1 of in your deck, that'll probably be good for a long time. I think that's a decent price. And of course it's a Kickstarter card, so it'll probably go up over time as well. So probably should jump on that if you haven't already. If you're looking to play competitively, but
I feel like even if a super duper grand ring comes out and it's just a little better, I feel like then the ring will go down in price, and to new players you're like, well, there's like a cheaper option, you can just play this card because it's still draw a card for nothing. Like that's
I think
so.
If I had to guess, I don't think they're going to like strictly power creep it. I think more so they would have Divine Relic, I think is what the term on the Grand Crusader's Ring. I think they would more so come out with a card that's like more specific to an archetype. So like kind of like, and I know Flesh and Blood's like the game I come from, so kind of like Tunic is like, everyone says like, oh, you need Tunic, but then if you're running Dromai, you actually don't run Tunic at all, you run the Flamescale Furnace. So it's like more specific. Even though Tunic is very good in a lot of decks, you have a better option at that here.
I would prefer having a specialized
or to your point, it would be a lot of times you would run Courage of Bladehold in Dorinthia, so similar to that, where it's more specific. So even though you could say like in an overarching like umbrella of the entire game, the Grand Crusader's Ring is the objectively better card overall, but specifically in this deck, it's a better option to run this.
That's more fun to me. I think it's more fun to be able to lean into a type of deck style rather than just being like, doesn't matter, no matter what, you play one of this because it's just, it's required. I don't like that word when you're deck building. Required. Like, no matter how creative you are or what you think you're doing, like, this card just has too much value to, like, pass up. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that happens with like every set starting out, or every game starting out. Or the first set, you're gonna have like cards that are just busted for whatever reason.
Yeah,
The answer to it hasn't come out yet. The players have figured out like this is the best meta deck, and there's just not a big enough card pool, and there's gonna be winners and losers in terms of the card pool. And you're like, if I'm building fire, I need this card, this card, and this card. There's no option. Like, this just these are the best options. But then as we get more cards, and I don't think they've announced like any kind of rotation system yet. I think they've been talking about it. I'm interested to see what they do with that. I don't think they absolutely necessarily need a ever expanding card pool. I think this game probably could survive with some kind of rotation. I liken it a lot to Magic. In terms of like the way the game is played. I mean, it's different than Magic for sure. Don't get me wrong, but like, I think just the way cards interact with each other, I think you definitely could use some kind of standard rotation and then have like an unlimited format, kind of like Modern or something like that. But I hope that doesn't come for a long time, because if you do it too soon, that does alienate a lot of players.
Yes, yeah, I was just gonna.
I would say like, and maybe they could even say like do something like, I don't know if you played Hearthstone recently.
Not recently. I've seen shenanigans, but I haven't played it in a while.
But the one thing I do like about Hearthstone is they have like a core set that will never rotate.
Oh yeah,
so it's like
I know about that.
These cards will just be in the game, and then they also have rotation on top of that. So I kind of like that approach as well. If you had like, all right, so if you're playing Lorraine, you can play this card, this card, this card, and like not just Lorraine, but like in the card pool.
But probably like some iconic cards that. Yeah.
I think that's a fun way to do it. That no physical TCG does, as far as I know.
No. I was going to say, like, maybe one thing that a lot of the newer card games worry about is, I mean, if a customer comes into my store and goes, so do you guys do you have like standard Magic? You hear someone laugh, a car crashes, and they're like, no one's played standard since, the Bronze Age. And it's like, maybe these companies are afraid that sort of format would fall into that. Like, I know Flesh and Blood doesn't really rotate.
No.
Final Fantasy does not rotate. I know Pokemon still does, but don't they have like long stretches of time between them?
They rotate every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's every year, and it's 2 years worth of card pool is like alive, right? So every year they drop off that third year.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a floating 2 years of every card pool. And standard, I think people really liked standard before certain things happened at WotC. So I don't think standards falling off is standard's fault, if that makes sense. I don't think it has anything to do with like rotation or like how standard feels at any certain point. I mean, we've had bad and good standard formats. I think it's more so, without getting too into it, I think it's just how WotC has handled product releases. It's just too much, too fast. And even if you're playing standard, you can ignore a lot of it, but it's just the overall sentiment of that game right now. So all that to be said, I don't think this game needs it right now. I don't even think they need to announce it anytime soon. It's just something that I'd be curious to see like a year or two from now when they're starting to...
Yeah, I mean, you're just discussing it. And I run into this weird kind of contradiction with customers where they come in and I'm like, just to have a conversation about it. What don't you like about standard? And they're like, well, you like dump like $300 and then like it rotates right out. Now that's a point, sure, but the contradiction lies in they say that, but then so I'm like, so what do you play? And they're like, I play Modern and Commander. And I'm like, how much do you spend on that? And they're like, well, these lands are like $900 and this and this and this. And I'm like, so it doesn't seem like money's the issue as much as like maybe you feel like once it rotates out,
like you wasted your time and your money. Yeah. Like,
and then to be honest though, at the end they're just like, but I play Commander anyway, so like.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what Magic is now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So well, I mean, maybe the devs will bring that up at some point soon, or like you said, maybe after like a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a really good like video essay that I've watched. It's like a series called The 7 Deadly Sins of Card Games.
Is that the name of the video? Or
it's the name of the like whole overarching like series.
Oh, okay.
And so it's by, I think his name is Kodok. It's like Kohdok or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
He did a 7 Deadly Sins of trading card games, kind of like why games fail and what's called the 2-year curse. So if you don't know, of course, a lot of people know, especially if you're in card games. In the 90s and the early 2000s, there was this huge glut of just brand new trading card games, everything from Japanese card games getting imported to the Austin Powers trading card game to like, just everything under the sun. And why do these games fail? Well, one of the seven deadly sins, and I really recommend you watch it, is rotation, card rotation. And one of the things he brings up, why do companies even implement rotation? And the number one reason is because they want to sell more cards, right? So if you have a never-ending card pool, usually you have one of two things that has to happen if it's like ever growing. Either you power creep things constantly so that people keep buying it, or you start banning things like crazy, almost implementing a pseudo rotation, right? Which feels almost worse because it comes out of nowhere, right?
Yep.
A lot of times ban lists drop and it's like, oh no, my deck that was fine a week ago is now gutted from this ban list. That all being said, I don't think rotation is necessarily a bad thing. I just think it needs to be done right, and it can't be done too early, because if it's done too early, then suddenly people just feel like, oh, all these cards I've invested in are now pretty much worthless, usually whenever there's a rotation announced.
And usually the card in question is like the backbone. It's what makes the deck
right
what it is. So yeah.
And I think if they do implement rotation, not saying they will, but if they do, I think they need to do it in a way. They need to like announce rotation, then also announce the expanded / modern / whatever they want to call it format, where it's like, yes, we're gonna rotate standard. This will be standard or whatever they want to call it, but then we also have the expanded game also. So when we're gonna have tournaments that support both. Because if you just have a standard rotation, and you don't have expanded or some kind of everlasting format, then you really do make people's cards worthless, and that's when I think you start alienating people.
And you also, maybe not everyone does this, but you may start losing faith in the company, because you're like, so what are they going to do next? They are out against me personally, which is why they banned, whatever card. That's why Chain got this in Flesh and Blood. I haven't thought like James White was literally out to get him.
I mean, every deck he's ever played, right?
Yeah, no, they're on a mission. But no, they have to be very careful about it. That's the whole thing. But it will be interesting to see. It's in when's Houston?
Houston is the final weekend of September.
Yeah.
It's like September 30th, which thank you to all these trading card game companies putting these events at the end of the quarter. It's like...
No, call out.
It's just rough for me with work, but no, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know much about Houston. I've never been to Texas, but
I've never been. But the rates seemed pretty cheap. I haven't looked at flying, but the hotels seemed pretty cheap.
Yeah, the hotel they posted too is like, it looked pretty nice. It was only $100 a night for 2 beds.
So you split
great.
that or do whatever you have to do. But what I was going with that is it'll be interesting, because this happens in every card game I've played. It'll be interesting to see what the meta is then, and if we look back now and be like, remember when people used to complain about floating memory, like, what nerds? But like, it could also still be the same. Like, floating memory is a very core mechanic. Game,
that could be the same. I hope the meta is a little different, because it should also include the second set.
That's August.
Fractured Crown.
I think it's like the middle of August.
Which looks awesome. They've already announced like they showed 2 cards. They showed the key art, and it looks really cool. I'm actually really excited for that set. Almost more than I was excited for Dawn of Ashes coming out.
Yeah.
Dawn of Ashes felt like, I was like, all right, yeah, this new game, I want to play, I want to try it. But then it just had like this like, man, it was like having to keep the faith for a minute.
There's a lot of just vanilla cards in here where it's like, it's a 1/1 and like, or it's a 2/2 and it's one more, it's one more resource. And you're like, okay, like I know you have to have those vanilla cards. But it'll be interesting to see. Well, the biggest thing is if Cleric or Guardian, or is it Hunter or Ranger? Is it Ranger in this?
I think it's Ranger.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those pan out. No offense to Flesh and Blood, but Ranger took a while to just until recently. I want to see Ranger
Lexi
really be but. And I know they have now they have the quiver, but I just want to see like a fully fleshed out like marksman type of ranger class, and I just hope it's fun and.
It's kind of like Tolkien syndrome for me, where it's like World of Warcraft syndrome, where like I have now a predisposed image of what a ranger is in my head.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's a night elf with a tiger, or an orc with a wolf, or like
The pet is definitely
Yeah.
a thing. I think WoW like ingrained in everybody.
Like I can't not see it that way. Like I can't like when they announced Ranger and it was Azalea, I was like, oh, that's really cool, bow and arrow class. But then I was like, but it's not like what I think of as a
Right.
Ranger, which is totally personal. Like, who cares?
No, I think I think Kayla had the same sentiment, and also the whole thing with like loading the arrow was cool. It was like simulating,
Yeah.
but it was so kind of
Convoluted.
Yeah, it was just like I just want to shoot somebody. Like, but while we were talking about classes, right now, and like I said, maybe in a month from now or whatever, I could be absolutely wrong, but like Tamer is definitely you're trying to make Tamer work. Well,
Bless your heart.
you get an entry pack. I am excited to see what they can do. But like, what's his name? Alan. Alan, how are you? I have not seen a single person talk about playing Alan, and we had Ryan and Tim playing Tamer, and they're both good card players. Hopefully, they can come up with something, but it just didn't feel like they were on the same. They could be on the same power level as like what the other classes are doing. There is that new card, not the bear card.
Oh yeah, Bistro Frenzy, and then that's the bear card you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one. It's floating memory, and it gives like a beast.
It's like 2/2 if you have a beast ally or something. I forgot. Going forward, I will do better to like remember the names of these. But all I'm gonna say is it's a common, and it seems like they're just like Tamer needs something that's crazy. Like put that in there.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna be playing 4 of those. So hopefully that helps a bit. I don't think either Tim or
I think the other
or
issue.
Ryan were playing.
I think one of the bigger issues Tamer has, and I'm only going to go off the Sylvie level 3, the one from, I think it's going to be from the structure deck coming out when we get Alter, but it's the one that comes in the little pack when you open the Prelude decks too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one that most people are looking towards. It's the one where every one of your beast and or animal allies gets +1 life, and they all get intercept. Well, I think a lot of the issue right now is the best decks in the format aren't really attacking too much, like, or they're able to clear everything at once, right? So even though you play all these animals that have intercept, if you're against Rye, that does not matter. He's just gonna play spells at your face. So maybe we get in a future set, we get like something that has like, this was a mechanic in Hearthstone too, where it was like, I think it was a totem that like, whenever you cast a spell at a target, it like ate it. It's like it has to like go to that target. It's like intercept but for spells.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we'll get that eventually. There's like no way I don't. Like,
yeah, if there was a spell, I'm trying to think like right now. If there was a spell intercept, that would be very frustrating because.
But maybe it's exclusive to Tamer. Class bonus.
Yeah.
And it's a Terra card or something like that, so you don't get it right away, and it could be good.
So, because we were just talking about Tamer, I had never seen this card before. I'm not sure it's at the camera or whatever. But I was like, I've never seen someone play it. And then I saw Pride 10 on it, and I was like, do you ever get there? Like, I guess if you have all the gear and everything. But I think Tamer has a lot of cards like that, where it's like, oh, it's this gorilla that like beats your face in. But I don't know if there's enough time in the game right now to set up all that, let alone someone plays like the Wind Fairy, and they're like, that's all right, bounce it.
So if I had to guess, I think what this card is used for would be the on-enter effect more than anything. It's on-enter is allies you control get +1 attack for each animal and or beast ally card in your graveyard until end of turn, which is wild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you still get that even out before Pride. Like, you still get the on-enter bonus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just can't attack or intercept.
So it helps you, but it doesn't care about you. I mean, I guess that's fine.
It's almost like a weird spell in a way.
Well, is this kind of like eruption where you're fueling up the
and
source
I
for
could
it
think like fire or water would do a really good job. Like water, you can mill yourself those things, and then fire has all the discarding, kill your own ally to draw 2 cards, things, stuff like that.
Yeah, just have 100 squirrels in the graveyard, and I don't know.
And then suddenly you buffed everything by like 5 attack.
Yeah.
And you swing in. Monkey.
Yeah, let me see. But yeah,
So-
because I saw Pride 10, I was like, maybe you're just not supposed to control this thing. It's too
That's exactly what it is.
wild or whatever. It's like
too
beyond.
proud.
Yeah, it's
Too, look at him. Look at him.
Nah, he's flexing.
He don't care about you.
No, I guess you shouldn't look at that. But All right. There you go. Try it out. Come on, Ryan. If anyone can make it work, like I think you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ryan would have to do it. Ryan, or I know Nick was even trying his hand at getting a Tamer deck ready to go.
Oh, okay. And I want to see that. I mean, especially now, we're not playing for like booster boxes or anything. People should be at their locals, like trying out weird stuff. Granted, with the limited card pool that they have available, but no, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Zach won locals with Water Assassin. Unfortunately, I didn't play against it. I don't know what it does.
But it's insane.
But
from what I understand, I think Assassin, it's more of a stun deck. It's trying to keep you as limited in your resources as possible. They play I don't remember exactly the name of it. It's like Icy Touch or something like that. So basically what that does is you banish a random card from their memory and they don't get it back till the end of their next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already slowing them down that way. Again, that more matters if they're actually using their memory to pay for costs. Or you can banish something important and they can't play as many cards next turn.
Yeah.
It's really cool because that card that you're using to do that has floating memory. And then I think a lot of what it does, it needs to get to its Luxem talent. It like reveals cards out of its memory and then will do kind of shenanigans from that
That's
point.
the level 3,
Yeah.
like the gold. Because I was looking at Assassin last night, I did notice they have a lot of insane Luxem stuff that's like, when this is revealed, and then there's a card that says reveal all your memory, and there's like 4/3 allies that just pop on the field. There's like, for everything you reveal, gain a health. Like, so if you reveal all these at the same time, that seems, insane. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't played against any Assassins yet, which is natural. There's just a bunch of people with starter decks running around. So.
And we also have 18 people there. So there's like not a good chance you'll play everyone.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And no, just to weave to the short, to your guys' credit, like the game is on fire. Like first 2 weeks we've had 17, 18 people come out, and every time we have people show up, they're like, no, I'm talking to my friend right now, and they've been watching videos and they're getting into it. Something I've heard a lot is I'm just waiting for Alter to come out so they can jump in with a box.
Yeah, our friend Jamie.
Yeah,
Jamie's
they don't want to drop because Kickstarter boxes are like $200-$300 right now. It's just a bit insane. That's no one's fault. It's just they're in demand, and it is what it is. But I think we're going to be selling boxes for $89.99. It's a bit more reasonable, and we're ordering a ton of it. So no, I'm looking forward to it growing. And I also want to play with the new cards, the alt cards.
The Frost Sworn Paladin. That's the card I'm all about.
Yeah, no, that is one card that if I get a foil, that will go to the reserved for AJ side of the table. The Fire Fairy didn't look insane, but it just had like a interesting mechanic where it
is very
pings
interesting.
you if you held on to a certain regalia.
You choose a target, anything other than their champion, and as long as that thing stays on the field, the owner of it takes a ping of damage. So you can choose an ally, you can choose like you said, a regalia. You can choose like the landmark cards, any permanent that's not the champion, and they will take a point of damage. So it incentivizes them to get rid of it, and if they don't, they kind of pay a tax on it.
Okay, so you can put that on like their blacksmith or something that just sits there all game, and it's kind of on one of their floating memory guys.
The only thing I would say is it's a little counterintuitive to what Fire wants to be doing. It's just slow.
Yeah,
like that's why it's like one ping of damage every turn is like like compared to like.
No. Like, maybe if you get it out like right at the beginning and it adds up, but even still, like, but the fairy doesn't have to be on the field, does it?
It's as long as the fairy's on the field, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, so they'll probably
even if it's not.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And at this point, I guess every element has a fairy. The win one bounces stuff.
Oh, maybe that's why they added it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even think about that.
Because the water one is like it can never wake up.
Or it like taps something and then it untap. It like doesn't untap.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, it sleeps in this game.
It rests.
It rests. And then it awakens. It doesn't.
It awakens and people were asking me like, why is it called memory in that? And it's because you're recollecting your memories, which is why you're picking up your memories. I kind of like the names, but it's just there's just so many different card games where it's tapping, dulling, resting, committing, like
Well, they can't say tap. Only one company can say tap.
Fine.
Everyone's gonna call it tap because it's easy.
That's kind of like, I mean, that's been a while now, but we got a bunch of new Warhammer product and they used to be called like Eldar, and now like I think the Tolkien estate or something, or I forgot who it was. They're like, you can't use that anymore. Like dwarves is trademarked, so they're dwarven or something like that.
Dwarf is trademark?
Yeah, something like that. It's one of those words, and like they couldn't use Eldar anymore because that was like higher elf. So now it's like the Eldrazi, I think.
Oh, the Eldrazi's from Magic, I'm pretty sure.
It's something like it's something with like that. Like I know the Dark Elves like the Drukhari. And it's just weird that you can trademark certain fantasy terms that like have been around like forever. I don't know. That just seems weird to me. Yeah. Either way, floating memory is good. Jam it in your deck. I will ask you about a specific card. Your thoughts. You're a veteran of the cardboard world. There's a card with like a quill on it, and it's just like, look at the top 3 of your cards, floating memory.
Top 4, yeah.
Top 4. Is that jam worthy?
You have
just because it may be in there, yeah.
I do know in water specifically, you want it really bad because you're milling the top 2 cards off your deck, which is a little random, and that makes it less random, right? So you look at the top 4. I've already used it a bunch of times. I do not remember the name of it. Idle Thoughts. Idle Thoughts. So yeah, you look at the top 4. It costs 1, which is insane. It costs 1. You look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put them back in any order. And then that card also has floating memory.
Let's see.
There it goes.
Yeah.
And one of the things you'll do in water is a lot of the water cards will mill you. You'll mill yourself, and you'll put the 2 floating memories if you find them on top of your deck. Then you'll set the traps with the water card that's called Set the Traps, and then mill those 2 cards. Now you have 3 floating memory turn 1.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, my next few turns are just paid for. Like,
correct, yeah. So
crazy.
That's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast, where it's just like I would do that and then set that up, and then I'm just like, wow, memory doesn't have, like, none of my material deck doesn't have a cost anymore. Like, it just doesn't. So it will be interesting to see if, like, maybe there's a permanent that will come out and say, like, cards in graveyards lose floating memory until end of next turn or something like that. So
yeah, and I mean, I'll say this: it's not like this specific discussion of how floating memory is abundant. It's not like it's just our locals. I've seen a lot of people on Discord talking about it, so I'm sure they're aware that people are just ramping up on this stuff, because I think paying for to materialize stuff is supposed to kind of keep you in check from like getting too much momentum, but it's not really happening right now in certain
something
decks,
else
so.
I thought about too is that even though I think this is legal, so anytime you're building a deck, you can put any amount of, you can put fire, water, and wind cards all in your deck. You just can't play them until you unlock that element, right? So something I was thinking about was, like, you can, like, even if you run out of floating memory cards that are good for you, you can still put, like, floating memory cards in your grave. I don't know if it still works like that and still use them.
So you're saying you can have fire cards in your deck, but you can use a water card to mill the non-playable fire cards?
No, what I'm saying is, let's say you are a water deck, right? And you mill yourself, and you mill 2 fire floating memory cards. I'm pretty sure you can still use those.
I didn't know that. But it makes sense because Trisket can do that. And that you're obviously constructing the deck before you play her.
And
I would never have thought about that. Okay.
It works just like the advanced talent or advanced attribute, whatever it's called. Think about, like, you're not Crux yet, but you can put all these Crux cards in your deck, right? But you can't play them until, right? You just haven't unlocked it yet, and maybe there's something in the future other than Trisket that unlocks more elements. But yeah, that's just something I thought about. I was like, you can really jam a lot of floating memory in your deck if you.
Do you want more elements?
Like.
To be introduced, like, over time, or do you think that's
weird? Oh, do you mean like if I want like a lightning element or something like that? Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I think fire, wind, and water are very good starting elements, and I think they all have a really good identity. I think you can still add some, and maybe I want more advanced elements, but maybe a way to get to them faster. Maybe there's a level 2 that can be Crux, something like that, so that I can start. But I get why it's like locked behind level 3 because all those cards that are in those elements are like really, really strong, right? So like the Knight of Pendragon, Ghost of Pendragon.
Oh yeah.
That card is wild. It's a 2-cost like 2/3 that draws 2 cards when it enters. It's like
the guy on the horse.
Yeah,
is a 3/4 for
there
2, which you just see that and you're like,
that's pretty good.
There's no downside either.
And it draws 2 cards, just wild.
There's that other card that just doesn't take combat damage.
Oh, the Ghost, the Geist.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, I'm just in your face every turn now, and but I think, and I'm sure it's coming, but I think you nailed it on there has to be, like, there's Spell Shroud, there needs to be, like, Spell Intercept, or something like that, where it's like, I can't just nuke your face, I have to deal with this first.
Yep.
Then I can nuke, and is that going to be annoying because I have to hold on to this damn spell until I deal with it? What I'm trying to say is, we want to spoil that card when it's a card.
We called it, right?
So yeah. No, that's really good. But anyways, I'm actually curious. I want to hear about other locals and how they're shaping up. What's
absolutely
what's being played there. Soon, we will be streaming Grand Archive. Commentary might be there sometimes, or we may just do a post commentary. That might be a little bit easier. Because on the night we do Grand Archive, we also do Yu-Gi-Oh! And we have other events going on, so it might be a little crazy to try to do that.
Yeah. But no, definitely gameplay videos will be coming. It's really... We're going to be at least recording some of those games, like, at our locals. Like, send people over there to play some games, and, you know, maybe we can do something like this where we talk over kind of like what's happening, kind of like
I'd be down for that.
A commentary. So yeah, it'd be really exciting. It's something I don't really see on YouTube yet. There's some TTS gameplay coming out, but I think it's really good to have like an edited tabletop video, actually show the cards up on the screen while they're coming across the table and all that good stuff.
And this isn't to discredit the people who cover the TTS content, because hey, you're doing it and other people aren't, and it's getting the word out there. I just feel like when people watch TTS games, it doesn't seem as like this is a game that's being played. It's more of just like, oh, they're simulating it and it's not like out yet. Granted, it's still like in the Kickstarter playing product phase, which we're almost out of. Either way,
we're almost there.
Yeah,
I'm ready for full release.
I would like to say, please look forward to it. Trademark Yoshi P.
You can't say that.
No, I trademarked it. He didn't.
Okay. We're gonna get a cease and desist from
I love when people try to figure out like what that means. Like if there's some subliminal messaging to it, or like, why does he always say that? And like, oh, it's in like Japanese culture.
Yes,
they look forward to things.
Well, it's like it's like one of their greetings. I don't want to say it. I'm gonna cut this all out.
Oh no. All right, we'll stop with there. I love when he says it. I really want
to look forward to it.
Yeah.
Especially, it's always good when it's like after like, we nerfed Death Knight by like.
Oh, they just completely got something. Yeah.
It's like, please look forward to it.
Yeah. One of my favorite images is of him grinning, saying, "Please look forward to it." And there's like a burning shack behind him. Either way, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're having a blast doing this coverage, and we just want to hear back from other people regarding the game and what they're looking forward to.
Help us get to 200. We're so close.
Yeah, just do it. Like, I don't know, if you just call up your grandma and be like, here's the link, just hit subscribe. It's just a card game. I don't know, maybe she'll play it or something.
If you like what we do here, definitely subscribe and share it around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to try to do this video once a week. It'll be an awesome series, and just let us know what you think. And I think we're out.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys.